Hey there, mister. As you can tell, I'm wearing a shirt. Okay, down to business. Okay, one of the first events that led up to World War II was when Japan invaded the Chinese territory, Manchuria. Yeah, Japan were said to take over Asian countries to free them from European imperialists, but in all honesty, it was just so they could use them for their own advantage, have reinforcements, and use them for war purposes and basically for their fascist ideas. And the second event that led to the war was Mussolini's invasion of Ethiopia, where Italy basically went into Ethiopia and were taking over it. This was because Mussolini was a fascist and believed that Italy should go back to its superior times, like in Roman times, and become once again a very powerful country. And by going to Ethiopia and take over, they proved so, and started to show more nationalistic and racist thoughts. The third event was when Germany reoccupied the Rhineland, but first they did that by, breaking the treaty of, not breaking, but violating the Treaty of Versailles by creating or drafting an army and starting to build up a larger army than it was intended to, which was like about 10,000 that they were originally intended to do. But yeah, after they reoccupied the Rhineland from France, and they were basically allowed to, since France didn't have any allies to back them up. The next event was the Spanish Civil War between fascist General Franco and the Spanish Republican government. The thing that was significant about it was that since Germany and Italy had fascist leaders, they helped that Franco. And another significance was that Soviet Union and Germany didn't get along, and at this point the Soviets were already helping out the Republican, and it showed the rivalry between them. The next event was the Rome-Berlin Axis that was formed in 1936, where where basically Italy and Germany became allies, and at this time was the most powerful allied force in Europe, which were both dictatorially and fascistly ruled. Both had anti-Semitic hate, and then soon after, later that year, Japan joined them, which was significant because they were also a fascist country. The next event is the Sudan crisis, where basically Hitler wanted territory from Czechoslovakia because it was German speaking and the majority was basically German, and the Czechs were basically hoping for a reaction from Britain and France to do something against them, against the Germans, but nothing had came up. The seventh and next event was the Anschluss, where Hitler wanted to unite Austria, his home country, with Germany and create like two provinces out of it, and he did it, but in the Treaty of Versailles, it didn't let him. It restricted Austria and Germany from uniting again, but he still did it either way, expanding his empire even more than it was. The next event was in 1938, which was the Munich Conference, which basically it was Britain and France and Germany negotiating on agreements, which Germany basically got the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia and was granted the land because of the appeasement, which basically gave Hitler whatever he desired, which included that land, and to basically prevent war. And this also was the time where the British minister Chamberlain, he falsely said that he secured peace with honor and peace for our time. The next event began in March 1939, where after Hitler ceded Sudetenland, Germany just basically invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia and started to take over. And this event started to show Hitler's brutal side, when he took over the Czechs and other ethnic groups in there. He would keep them captive and show no mercy. The next event began in August 1939, where Hitler and Stalin signed a non-aggression pact where they would remain neutral unless one of them interfered in warfare or hostilities. And this pact also secretly divided Poland, the Baltic states, and other countries up north under their influence. And basically the only reason that Stalin agreed to this pact was because he was going to have territorial gain, and he didn't trust other Western countries because they all envied communist ideas. But the significance of this event was that with this pact, Hitler was basically unstoppable because he had nobody trying to stop him, and he was his empire was just getting bigger and bigger every year. The next event was the invasion of Poland. Before, France and Britain had warned Hitler that not to invade Poland or else it would go to war, but he took it as a joke and he went on either way. So in 1939, Germany sent an army and warplanes into Poland, started seizing it. And the significance of this was that that this action officially started the World War. The next event started in spring 1940, where Hitler used his the most recent attack called the Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, which basically used airplanes, tanks and trucks to fight. And yeah, he used this maneuver to break into Germany through Belgium. I mean France through Belgium, and soon splitting French and British forces, and trapping British forces on French land and having them withdraw. And basically, France was left helpless and was taken over by Germany. And at this time, Hitler had already controlled almost all of continental Europe. The 13th event, the next event was between Britain and France. I mean, Britain and Germany in 1940, where they basically fought in the air and started bombing each other back and forth. But overall, Britain had won because after continuous bombings, they increased production of like aircrafts and basically won the German sides 3-1. And like the significance was that it started to show a little weakness and hope towards towards the groups against Hitler, and it showed a little weakness towards Hitler himself. The next event was probably the worst mistake that Hitler had made, which was to invade the Soviet Union, thus, breaking his pact with Stalin and going into war with the USSR. But Germany had already taken most of Ukraine and started to take over places in Soviet Union, like Moscow. And at this time, the Soviets were losing the war between them. But during the war in the winter, like, the Germans didn't dress properly and basically had to retreat because their soldiers were freezing, and this gave time for the Soviets to recover and basically gave them a second chance, which would basically alter Germans' fate. This next event was after the Soviet Union had recovered from the invasion of Germany, and they were again being invaded by Germany, but this time it had backfired for Germany when Germany went into Soviet Union successfully, but it had overturned during the Battle of Stalingrad, where Russian troops surrounded the Sixth Army of 300,000 men, and basically killed off most of them, leaving them dead and surrounded. Making them surrender. And because of Hitler's weak decisions of not not retreating from the battle. And this was really significant because people started seeing the bad side of the war and starting to oppose Hitler and the war. Well, the German people, they were starting to refuse. So after the defeat in Stalingrad, Germany was basically losing most of its gains and was showing a lot of signs of weaknesses, and were basically losing power. So then, the next event was D-Day in I think June 1942, where General Eisenhower of the United States, he was in command of British and American forces that went into Normandy and basically pushed out 2 million soldiers out of France, and half 500,000 of automobile vehicles from France, and broke through German lines, which was very like a very devastating blow for Germany, and was falling. The next events was like in response of D-Day invasion, where Hitler had the Battle of Bulge, where Germany went into like a forest area in between like Belgium and France to try and surprise attack the United States and the Allies. But United States and the Allies had quickly reacted and like depleted the German forces, and basically led to the invasion of Germany, or in Berlin, and it was like the worst blow yet, and basically was making Germany lose, and adds to the next event, which was in 1945, where basically the Allied forces had already gained all of the territory back, all the European territory back, and basically Germany surrendered because Hitler had died and left his German commanders stranded and alone and not knowing what to do. So all they had to do was surrender, and basically the war was over, but in Europe. But the U.S. still had conflicts with Japan, which was basically the next event, which was in August of 1945, where the Americans were having discussions about whether they should, throw bombs or into the Japan or not, and finally they had thrown the bombs in 1945 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and with these radioactive blows, Germany had finally surrendered, and the war was over, which took like millions of lives, and it had finally ended in 1945. Thank you.